There was a time when Kim Basinger was everywhere, an Oscar-winning actress, model, and one of Hollywood's most talked-about leading ladies. But then, almost overnight, she vanished from the spotlight. No red carpets, no blockbuster roles, no public appearances. For years, fans wondered, what happened to Kim Basinger? Was she retired, hiding, forgotten? The truth is far more complex and more human than most people realize. Because behind the fame and beauty, Kim faced something that no amount of Hollywood glamour could protect her from. A deeply personal struggle that changed her entire life. Early life marked by emotional strain. Some people believe that trauma doesn't just affect one person, it can ripple through generations. For actress Kim Basinger, best known for her role in Nadine, that ripple seemed to start with her mother, Anne Cordell Basinger. Kim opened up about her struggles on Red Table Talk, sharing that she's battled anxiety for as long as she can remember. She described herself as highly perceptive and deeply sensitive to the tension and arguments that filled her childhood home. Her mother, she said, was a beautiful woman, but also deeply troubled, someone who carried her own lifelong struggle with anxiety. That emotional weight left a lasting mark on Kim. As a young girl, she developed a powerful fear that something bad might happen to her mother. It was so overwhelming that she often felt she needed to stay close just to keep her mom safe. To do that, she'd make up excuses to leave school early, finding comfort in simply being home with her. When the adults around her started noticing the pattern, Kim underwent a psychological evaluation, and that's when her anxiety was officially recognized for the first time. Even in the midst of that emotional turbulence, it was clear Kim had a spark that couldn't be ignored. As a teen, she shined in ballet, cheerleading, and pageants, early signs of the performer she would become. After spending a year in college, she took a leap and signed with the famous Ford modeling agency, joining the ranks of names like Jane Fonda, Brooke Shields, and Naomi Campbell. But modeling wasn't her dream. Kim found the constant focus on appearance suffocating, once admitting that she felt like she was choking under the pressure of always being judged for how she looked. Still, the experience opened doors. Guest spots on shows like Charlie's Angels and The $6 Million Man soon followed, and she made the bold choice to leave modeling behind to chase acting full-time. Looking back, Kim has said that her early modeling career gave her a head start, even if she didn't love it. In an interview, she reflected on her early days in New York, saying she felt fortunate not to have to struggle for survival like so many others. She started earning early, driven not so much by ambition, but by a quiet determination, a confidence that carried her from those early struggles to Hollywood stardom. Kim Basinger's secretly scarring marriage. In 1980, while filming her very first movie, Hard Country, Kim Basinger met a makeup artist named Ron Snyder. What started as an on-set connection soon turned into a relationship that lasted 9 years, but it wasn't a smooth ride. From the very beginning, there were cracks beneath the surface. In his memoir, Longer Than Forever, Snyder shared that just one day after their wedding, Kim asked him to change his last name to sound more like hers. He reluctantly agreed, and together they became the Britons. Not long after tying the knot, Ron left his job so he could travel with Kim and support her through the panic attacks she was battling at the time. But as Kim's career skyrocketed and she became one of Hollywood's most talked-about stars, the balance in their marriage began to crumble. Resentment grew quietly between them until it started to tear the relationship apart. Then came 9½ Weeks in 1986. A film that would define Kim Basinger's career but also leave lasting scars. On screen, she played out an emotionally abusive relationship, but behind the scenes, things were just as intense. Director Adrian Lyne deliberately kept the set filled with tension to bring out raw emotion in her performance. During her audition, Kim was even asked to pretend to be a prostitute, begging for money, a humiliating moment that pushed her far out of her comfort zone. She later admitted that she felt disgusted and embarrassed, yet she knew it was unlocking emotions she never knew existed. The film wasn't just emotionally draining, it was physically punishing too. In one brutal scene, she was shoved against a brick wall so hard that it left a permanent scar on her arm. By the time filming ended, she was completely spent. She later said that she was so done with the experience that she didn't even want to see anyone from the set again, not even the person who served coffee. All that emotional strain followed her home. The exhaustion and stress from the movie bled into her marriage, leaving her unable to give anything to Ron. The final blow came that same year when Ron discovered letters that revealed Kim was having an affair with her No Mercy co-star, Richard Gere. They tried to salvage what was left, but the damage was done. By 1989, their marriage was over. The divorce wasn't just painful, it was expensive. The court ordered Kim to pay Ron $9,000 a month in alimony. But instead of retreating from the spotlight or slowing down, Kim made one of the boldest and strangest moves of her life. She bought an entire town. Along with a few investors, Kim purchased most of Braselton, Georgia, a small rural town of about 500 residents, for $20 million. It covered roughly 1,800 acres, less than 3 square miles. While Kim wasn't from Braselton, she was a Georgia native, born in Athens, and the idea of transforming a quiet little town in her home state seemed like a dream worth chasing. Her vision was ambitious. She planned to turn Braselton into a vibrant tourist destination, complete with theme parks, restored buildings, a film studio, and even a film festival. But the dream never materialized. For a while, the town stayed exactly as it was, and eventually, Kim wanted out. She sold Braselton for just $1 million, a staggering $19 million loss. To make matters worse, several of her family members had been involved in the investment. When it all fell apart, it didn't just drain her finances, it fractured her family relationships too. Looking back, Kim reflected on the experience with surprising grace. In an interview with the Amarillo Globe News, she said that losing the town taught her more than any fancy education ever could. It was, as she put it, an unforgettable lesson in people and money. How far some would go in the name of it. Despite the heartbreak and loss, Kim found something valuable in the wreckage. Clarity and strength she would carry with her for years to come. The film that nearly ruined her. Back in 1992, a movie called Cool World hit theaters, a title that many might not recognize today, but at the time, it stirred up a whole lot of buzz. The film tried to follow in the footsteps of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, mixing live action and animation to tell a dark, film noir-style story where humans and cartoons shared the same world. But instead of being a hit, Cool World turned out to be a complete flop. And much of the chaos surrounding it could be traced back to what Kim Basinger was doing behind the scenes. In the movie, Basinger played Holly Wood, a sultry, animated femme fatale who dreams of escaping her cartoon universe. Her plan was to seduce the human cartoonist who created her, a bold and risky concept for its time. The film's director, Ralph Bakshi, was known for making edgy, adults-only animated films that often carried an R or even X rating. Cool World was originally supposed to follow that same gritty formula. But once production began, things took a sharp turn. Basinger suddenly wanted to change the tone of the film completely. Instead of a dark, adult fantasy, she wanted something family-friendly. Something, she said, that she could show to children in hospitals. That idea clashed hard with Bakshi's vision, and the tension on set became explosive. At one point, Bakshi reportedly got into a physical fight with one of the producers. Scripts were rewritten behind his back, and what ended up on screen was far from what anyone had originally planned. When Cool World was finally released, it bombed, both critically and financially. Paramount spent a fortune promoting it, even using Basinger's character in a massive marketing stunt involving the Hollywood sign, but none of it helped. Still, as messy as that situation was, it wasn't Basinger's biggest film controversy. In fact, her most infamous scandal came from a movie she never even appeared in. That film was Boxing Helena, a 1993 erotic thriller directed by Jennifer Lynch, daughter of the legendary filmmaker David Lynch. The film centered on a deeply disturbing story about a surgeon who amputates a woman's limbs, and even before its release, it sparked outrage and protests. Ironically, one of the most outspoken critics of the film's content was Kim Basinger herself, despite the fact that she had once agreed to star in it. After initially committing to the role, Basinger abruptly backed out, publicly criticizing the script and refusing to move forward. Her decision blindsided the studio, Mainline Films, and they hit back hard, suing her for breach of contract and demanding $8.1 million in damages. The jury sided with the studio, ordering Basinger to pay millions, but she didn't have that kind of money, so she filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy to protect her assets. Even after the judgment was reduced, she still owed $7.4 million, plus nearly another million in legal fees. Her lawyers estimated her entire net worth at just over $5 million at the time. To make matters worse, she still owned the town of Braselton, Georgia, a high-profile investment she ended up selling that same year for a massive loss of about 95%. Eventually, Basinger caught a break. The California Court of Appeals overturned the judgment, ruling that the jury instructions were unclear about whether Basinger herself or her company should be held liable. The case was settled in late 1995 for a much smaller amount than originally ordered. By then, the damage was done. Her reputation had taken a huge hit. The media had dragged her name through the mud, and she came dangerously close to losing everything she had worked for. Reflecting on that difficult chapter, she described it as one of the most painful experiences of her life, an ordeal that she said felt like an expensive education. The Hollywood trap that stifled Basinger. In 2002, Kim Basinger found herself back in the Hollywood spotlight with 8 Mile, the semi-autobiographical drama about Eminem's rise to fame. She played Stephanie, the mother of the aspiring rapper, and though it might sound like an odd pairing on paper, it worked. The film was a hit, and Eminem's anthem, Lose Yourself, went on to win an Oscar. For Basinger, it was also a professional reunion with director Curtis Hanson, who had previously guided her to an Academy Award in L.A. Confidential. Critics took note, too. Roger Ebert praised her for striking the right note somewhere between love and exasperation. But the success came with an unexpected twist. As the 2000s unfolded, Basinger noticed a troubling pattern. She was suddenly being offered only motherly roles. Once known as a sex symbol and leading lady, she had become Hollywood's go-to mom. Speaking with Elle magazine, she revealed how the industry's perception flipped overnight. At one point, no one could see her as a mother, and suddenly, that was all anyone could imagine. She called out Hollywood's lack of imagination, saying that once a label sticks, people don't think beyond it. To her, the trend was part of a larger problem. Women of all ages matter in film, but too often, the scripts don't reflect that. Outside the screen, things weren't much easier. In 2006, Basinger was back in court when her ex-husband Alec Baldwin accused her of violating their custody agreement. It became headline news, with People magazine covering every twist and turn. Though she pleaded not guilty, she faced possible fines of up to $12,000. The drama only fueled the media frenzy around her personal life. 2 divorces, rumored romances, including one with Prince, and a constant spotlight that made studios wary. In a business where male stars often emerge unscathed from scandal, Basinger became another example of Hollywood's double standard. In 2008, she tried something new, producing her own film. While She Was Out was a gritty, low-budget thriller directed by Susan Montford, and Basinger not only produced, but also starred in it. She played a suburban woman who, after a tense parking lot altercation on Christmas Eve, finds herself hunted by a group of violent young men. The premise was wild, and the execution even wilder. Critics compared it, unfavorably, to Taken, which had come out the same year. The movie grossed only $29,000 against a $6 million budget before vanishing to DVD shelves. It was Basinger's first and last venture into film production. Still, she didn't disappear. In 2013, at 60, she returned to her roots, signing a modeling contract with IMG. the same agency that represented her daughter, Ireland Baldwin. IMG's senior vice president, Ivan Bart, praised her enduring star power and charisma, saying her screen presence would bring new opportunities across fashion and entertainment. Basinger herself was grateful, fully aware of how rare it was for women her age to get such offers. In an interview with Vulture, she called it a privilege and hinted that she wasn't done with acting either, teasing that a return to the screen was on the horizon. That return came in 2015 with The 11th Hour, a psychological thriller from Danish director Anders Morgenthaler. Basinger portrayed a high-powered businesswoman haunted by grief after multiple miscarriages. It was an intense, emotionally heavy role, but critics weren't kind. The Observer's Rex Reed dismissed it as a creepy, pretentious hunk of junk, even claiming there was no evidence Basinger remembered how to act. The movie landed a dismal 13% on Rotten Tomatoes, with reviewers calling it overwrought and meaningless. Basinger later explained that she intended the film as a metaphor for professional women who delay motherhood, but the message failed to resonate with audiences. Despite the setback, she wasn't done yet. In 2017, Basinger landed her biggest mainstream role in years. Elena Lincoln, the enigmatic former lover of Christian Grey in 50 Shades Darker. For the actress who once starred in 9.5 Weeks, the role felt like déjà vu to many, but she approached it differently. She later shared that she only accepted the part because her daughter encouraged her to. Ireland told her that the story represented women's emotional power, not submission. Initially hesitant, Basinger soon realized her character wasn't a dominatrix, but a mentor, a woman defined by control, not chaos. She returned briefly for 50 Shades Freed in 2018, marking another quiet chapter in a long, unpredictable career. The price of Hollywood beauty. In Hollywood, beauty has always been both a blessing and a curse. And for Kim Basinger, it was the double-edged sword that defined much of her early career. From the moment she appeared on screen, audiences were captivated by her striking looks. She became the go-to actress for the seductive love interest, the mysterious femme fatale, or the glamorous star of an erotic thriller. Her physical appeal wasn't just part of her image, it was her ticket to stardom. But Hollywood has long played by an unfair rule book. When male stars age, they're called distinguished. When women do, they're often called past their prime. Basinger found herself caught in that very trap. As time passed, the roles that had made her a star, the ones that relied on her youthful allure, began to disappear. She tried to reinvent herself, taking on more mature and dramatic roles, but the transition wasn't easy. Many in the industry doubted her range, and soon the major offers stopped coming. What followed was a string of smaller, low-budget, and straight-to-video projects, a far cry from her blockbuster days. Despite this, Basinger's legacy remains anchored in a handful of iconic hits like L.A. Confidential and Batman. These films proved she could shine on the biggest stage, both commercially and critically. But outside of those successes, her filmography paints a harsher picture. According to Rotten Tomatoes, her career is filled with far more misfires than hits, roughly 4 times as many. Only 6 of her movies have managed to win over both critics and audiences, one of them being her supporting turn in 2016's The Nice Guys. On the other end of the scale, she's had 26 films that critics almost universally panned, including 3 that barely broke into double digits. Her 2000 thriller Bless This Child came dangerously close to a 0% rating. Still, box office numbers often matter more than reviews, and for a long time, Basinger's movies made serious money. She built a career out of audience appeal rather than critical praise. But once those box office returns began to dry up, Hollywood moved on. In later interviews, Basinger reflected on how much the industry has changed, and not always for the better. Speaking candidly, she admitted that the modern, social media-driven world of celebrity feels alien to her. She came of age in a time when mystery mattered, when stars weren't expected to share every detail of their lives online. She's always been private by nature, preferring to keep her personal life out of the spotlight. To her, today's Hollywood seems obsessed with exposure rather than artistry. Now older and more self-assured, Basinger sees aging not as a loss, but as liberation. She said that the best part of growing older is learning to let go of expectations, of public judgment, of all the noise. Ironically, she admits she was more self-conscious at the height of her fame, playing the sultry roles that defined her image. Looking back, she wishes she'd allowed herself to be freer, to have a little more fun with it all. In the wake of the Harvey Weinstein scandal, the film industry was forced to confront its darker side. Basinger, while never publicly sharing personal experiences of misconduct, has hinted that she's seen the uglier realities of Hollywood up close. She's spoken about the deep-rooted inequality that persists not only in entertainment, but in society as a whole. Her response has been bold, even radical. In interviews, she suggested that women hold immense, untapped power, and that true change could come if they united and withheld that power entirely. She's floated the idea that women could simply refuse to have children or relationships until society delivers real equality. It's a provocative statement, but one that reflects her frustration with how slowly things have progressed. Today, Kim Basinger stands as a reminder of Hollywood's contradictions. A woman once celebrated for her beauty, later punished by the same system that built her up. And through it all, she's learned to define herself on her own terms, away from the cameras, the critics, and the chaos. Remember her? This is Kim Basinger's life now. Believe it or not, Kim Basinger is now 71 years old, and yes, she still steps into acting every now and then. But let's be honest, it's probably been a while since you've actually seen her on screen. Her last live-action appearance was just a quick, uncredited moment in 2018's 50 Shades Freed. Before that, her final credited on-screen role came in 50 Shades Darker in 2017. In recent years, her voice has been doing most of the work. She's been focusing more on voice acting, and for now, that seems to be where her energy is going. She doesn't have any new projects publicly announced at the moment, but her latest work has been interesting. One of her first voice projects after stepping back from live-action roles was in the Amazon Prime series Comrade Detective. The show itself is live-action, but with a twist. It features American stars dubbing over Romanian actors in English, giving it a unique mix of humor and creativity. She also voiced Mother Bear in Back Home Again, an animated short that made the rounds at film festivals. It didn't get a major mainstream release, but it had an impressive cast that included Norm Macdonald, Bill Burr, Martin Short, Michael J. Fox, Howie Mandel, and Jeremy Renner. Her most talked-about role in recent years came in 2023, when she provided both her voice and likeness for the video game crime boss Rockay City. The game featured several familiar names from the past, including Vanilla Ice and Chuck Norris, giving it a nostalgic throwback kind of appeal. Despite her Hollywood success, Kim has always been open about her shy nature, something that might surprise people who remember her as a confident, glamorous star. But behind the scenes, she's faced real battles with mental health, especially anxiety and agoraphobia, which made even ordinary life incredibly difficult. Her struggles began in childhood. She often worried about her troubled mother and would find excuses to stay home from school just to be near her. That same anxious attachment carried into adulthood and eventually grew into agoraphobia, a fear that made leaving the house feel impossible at times. Kim has described moments when her anxiety was so overwhelming that even basic tasks felt like challenges. She said she'd become shaky and drained, struggling to do things as simple as driving a car or opening a sliding glass door. She also developed an eating disorder as part of her ongoing anxiety battle. She opened up about her experiences during a candid conversation on Red Table Talk with her daughter, Ireland Baldwin. In a preview of the episode, Kim shared how her agoraphobia once took complete control of her life. She recalled being in a store when she suddenly couldn't breathe and had to abandon her shopping cart to rush to her car. That one incident was so traumatic that she didn't drive again for 6 months. Over time, she stopped doing doing normal, everyday things. No dinners out, no visits from friends, barely leaving the house. She described it as a total shutdown of her body and mind, saying she had to relearn everything, including how to drive. Kim's symptoms weren't just mental, they were physical too. She often felt shaky, had a dry mouth, and was constantly exhausted. What she experienced aligns with agoraphobia, an anxiety disorder that involves the fear of being in situations where escape might be difficult. According to the National Library of Medicine, it affects just under 2% of Americans, but for those who live with it, the impact can be life-changing. On Red Table Talk, Kim made it clear just how deep her struggle went. She revealed that even something as small as opening a glass door could make her nervous. At one point, she avoided driving through tunnels entirely. Everything felt like a puzzle she had to figure out from scratch, each small step requiring immense effort. The truth about Kim's private life. Beyond the red carpets and movie premieres, Kim Basinger spent years pouring her heart and time into something deeply personal: animal rights. For Kim, this isn't a passing cause, it's a lifelong passion. And alongside that, she shares an incredibly close bond with her daughter, Ireland Baldwin, who seems to be her best friend as much as her child. When it comes to animal welfare, Kim speaks with fierce conviction. She's never shied away from calling out cruelty where she sees it, once telling Samaritan Mag that animal protection never seems to get better. It's an ongoing fight. It's a fight she's carried onto global stages, raising her voice against the dog meat trade in parts of Asia, and pushing for better treatment of animals at home in the US, too. Of course, speaking up that loudly hasn't always earned her applause. When she joined campaigns to ban horse-drawn carriages in New York City, critics accused her of being overly dramatic or indulging in radical chic. Kim didn't flinch. She told Interview magazine that it wasn't radical at all, recalling how, as a teenager new to New York, she saw a horse collapse from exhaustion on the street. For her, it was simple. Time should change traditions, but activism isn't always straightforward, even for the most dedicated voices. Kim once faced criticism when circus elephants were reportedly used during the filming of I Dreamed of Africa. The moment sparked conversations about hypocrisy in Hollywood and highlighted just how complicated ethical choices can be in the entertainment world. As for family, Kim's connection with her daughter Ireland is heartwarming. The resemblance between them is uncanny. Same striking looks, same presence. Ireland naturally followed in her mother's footsteps, diving into modeling and often gushes about her hot mama on social media. Their relationship is clearly full of love and laughter. And Kim's life these days? It's full but peaceful. Between her animal rights activism and spending time with family, she seems genuinely content. That joy grew even bigger in late 2022 when Ireland announced she was expecting a baby with her boyfriend, musician, and producer Ray C. Andre Allen Anjos. Kim celebrated the news with a touching Instagram post sharing old photos of baby Ireland and writing, "This was my baby, and she will soon have hers." In true Baldwin Basinger style, the baby shower was anything but traditional. It was held in a strip club, complete with family and friends. Kim's niece, Aliyah Baldwin, dubbed her the hottest granny there is. And when little Holland arrived the following May, Kim officially became a doting grandmother. She embraced the role with open arms, later seen in a sweet video playing with her granddaughter and a giant Elmo doll, earning the playful title Lady Elmo from Ireland. These days, Kim remains as committed as ever to her activism. She works closely with the Humane Society, often saying it feels like a full-time job. Whether it's poaching, domestic animal cruelty, or global awareness campaigns, she's always involved in something. When asked about regrets, Kim doesn't hesitate. She has none. In an interview with the Georgian Journal, she reflected on life's ups and downs with grace, saying she's learned to embrace every part of her journey and sees herself as a lifelong student of life. That mindset carries into her views on Hollywood, too. She's well aware that being outspoken hasn't always made her the industry's favorite, but she couldn't care less. To her, it's about living authentically in the present, not in the past, or chasing the future. Kim has described the industry perfectly, telling People magazine that fame can make you the top of the world or the bottom of the barrel. and your grape juice. That relentless pressure once took a toll, leading her to rely on medication for anxiety. But today, she says she's finally at peace. She wakes up, enjoys life, and has no desire to live in that chaos again. Between the lingering effects of fame, the stress of stardom, and what she's hinted might have been a touch of agoraphobia, it's no wonder she's chosen a quieter, more meaningful path. Surrounded by her family, her animals, and her purpose, Kim Basinger seems to have found something far more rewarding than Hollywood ever offered: genuine peace and a life lived entirely on her own terms.